right. And we're live. All right, here we go.
Right.
How you doing, bud?
Not too bad. Been a warm day. How about yourself?
Yeah, pretty warm here too, man. How's balls outside?
Yeah, it's been like that all week. Be ready for a little cool off.
Fucking A. It's about 50 degrees hotter than it needs to be.
I hear that it's been in the low 190s last week and a half, so a little relief would be good.
Yeah, it was when I was in San Diego, it was in like the 70s and 80s. Come back up here, it was like in the mid 90s, which was nice, and then decided to menopause itself and go up to 115. So, which
Ooh,
but
out
then we
on the
had the earthquake. So, so Deadpool Wolverine. First
yeah.
thoughts.
Uh, First thoughts for out of the Deadpool movies. My personal opinion, I think it's the best one. Even out of the from the 2016 movie, the original Deadpool movie. I Me personally, I think this is the best Deadpool movie yet. Like it's. I went in really not knowing what to expect, and I was entertained. I was pleasantly surprised. I don't think there was a part in the movie where I either didn't have a smile on my face or try not to hold back just childhood happy tears.
I
What were
mean, I know. I had it. I had at least 3 or 4 erections during the entire movie.
you?
You know,
And
I didn't think it was possible, but
those were during the opening scene.
yeah, that was just during the dance sequence. You know,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like so. Besides that, what were your feelings or thoughts? Your initial thoughts on it now that you've had some time to marinate on it.
honestly, for the record, I love it. I loved it. Um, I think all three, all together, 1, 2, and 3, like it was freaking like next to Days of Future Past and X-Men 2, the original first X-Men 2. This is, and I'll say Fox because they started it. It was the most complete X-Men / mutant movie series.
Yes.
Yeah, because like you had the first X-Men, X-Men 2, and the X3 drops off. You had you First Class, was it Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, and like it just drops off.
So are we counting
This-
what about the two standalone Wolverine movies, Origins and the
uh,
Wolverine?
all right, yeah, Wolverine, second Wolverine, Logan.
Right.
Like that's the only one that where it kind of drops off, but then redeems itself. This was just like 10 all across the board. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I personally liked the Wolverine standalone movie. Wolverine Origins, we won't talk about that, but the Wolverine movie, where he's in Japan, I personally I thoroughly liked that. In the third act, it had its problems. Don't like what Fox X-Men movie doesn't, but I personally liked the Wolverine movie. Logan, up until this movie, has been one of my favorite X-Men Wolverine, movies. It's not one I can watch all the time, because like it's it kind of gets,
Heavy.
but I thoroughly enjoyed Logan and X1, X3. I was kind of I was mixed on it, but yeah, the X1, X2, First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix. let's be real, nothing's gotten Dark Phoenix right except for the original animated series.
Yeah, the original animated series is the gold standard when it comes to Phoenix, and it's like, you know, m- my biggest issue with X3 is they tried doing too much.
Yes.
You know, way too much. They're like, okay, this is our last one. Let's throw everything in the kitchen sink. And I think it suffered for that. They could have made Phoenix better if they just would have toned it down a bit.
Yeah.
It had its potential. That's why I'm like, there's things about it that I could look at it and say I really liked.
Yes.
But the second Dark Phoenix, I'm like, it was hard for me to, and me, I like giving compliments when I can about movies,
Yeah.
but it was hard for me to stand here and say I like that part of it,
Right.
and but
I don't know how you are with movies. Me personally, I look at movies at two standpoints. First and foremost, was I entertained? Was I entertained throughout the movie? In most movies, I can sit there and say, yes, I was entertained. Then I look at it from either a story, plot, um, a canon standpoint, a source material standpoint of different, like some of those criterias of like I can love and hate the movie at the same time. Like
yeah,
from a pure movie, like was I entertained? Yes. Now, did the movie have its problems like plot holes or like or not being true to the source material or little issues like that? I can point out issues like that. That's kind of where I'm at as like a movie goer, movie watcher, or whenever I watch movies. And with
the
X3,
same.
it had its moments, but I'm kind of like you where it seemed like Fox opened the toy chest and kind of took all, like you said.
Yeah, and with X3, I could look at it and say, you know what, Ian McClellan will always be a friggin' high point.
Yes.
Um, friggin' the initial storyline, I see where they were going. Having Leech be the reason they have a cure, I liked the idea. Um, but then like they introduce Angel for no reason, really.
That
Like
it.
just to further the plot, and it was over.
The only thing that
Um,
he did was what save his dad or whatever towards the end.
yeah,
That's,
just to have the Angel in there, like.
yeah. It.
But what is out of all the greatness, the great moments in Deadpool and Wolverine? Is there anything that you wish they would have done or would have touched on? Because there's a few things that I thought would have been nice, but really wouldn't have mattered in the grand scheme.
I kind of one. I wish they would have kind of. I don't know if it was because actress wise, if she was in a different movie, different role, like had something else going on, and she couldn't be in the movie. I I kind of felt that Domino was just missing, and also whatever happened with Cable? Because did he ever go back to his own timeline, or is he still in the current timeline from Deadpool 2? Because I would have liked to kind of see something. I kind of wish Cable would have been in the movie because unless I don't remember correctly from Deadpool 2, I didn't think he was able to go back to his own timeline yet.
Yeah, I think when Deadpool took his device, and he even said it that he destroyed it, that would have kept Cable there. No, you know what I mean? Like he
Yeah.
voluntarily stayed. He's like, I'll stick around. I guess I'll stick around. Because I don't know if Josh Brolin like that. You know, he made the joke. He's like, now they get cheap. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
and like did they have a budget and it would have blown the budget, or was he not available, or didn't want to do it? You know,
Yeah.
it was like, and same thing with Domino. Like, you know, during the movie, I didn't notice it that she wasn't there, especially sitting around, which you know, is kind of one of the things that I wish they did. Um, but like, yeah, I didn't even notice she wasn't there. Cable, they at least touched on.
Yeah.
So was him and her running around doing something else? You know?
And so are we just are so before we get in too much, are we just going to assume that anybody who's watched this has already watched the movies and this is kind
It,
of it?
it's been 2 weeks. The any kind of limitations, I say, are it's fair game. Just let it go.
That that's
Let
kind of
Rick
how.
take it.
One thing that bothered me with the movie is it's already been established that the MC which technically this is an MCU movie now, correct?
I would say so. Yeah.
They've already established that the MCU is a separate universe from the comics. It's just one
Yeah.
little pick whenever it showed Deadpool at the Avengers. I'm assuming the Avengers Tower talking to Happy, and it said the sacred timeline, Earth 616. Earth 616 is the main timeline in the comics. MCU is its own standalone universe. That was just one of those little nerd kind of like, no, that's not right, but I don't know. This is kind of one of those little nitpicks for myself.
Well,
Um,
if I remember correctly, it's not the first time they referenced 616,
no, they
right?
read the Spider-Man movie, the Far From Home, whenever
And
was Mysterio was showed up.
didn't Fury reference it once?
I believe so.
So it's like, you know, again, long term storytelling. They already had the, you know, I'd say the characters had the knowledge of where they are, you know. So I guess, you know, again, long term storytelling. Maybe they had the idea for it a long time ago, but
Right. Another thing that I would have liked to seen out of the movie would have been more kind of would have been more. I'm assuming that this happens, which I'm assuming that this happens. I can't remember when in the timeline. I would have kind of liked to seen a little bit more of not necessarily repercussions, but like after effects of um, Infinity War and Endgame. I like that they do that in some of the other MCU movies that they either talk about it, they talk about the blip, or they talk about some of the after effects. That's one thing that if this is going to be in that canon, I kind of wish they would have either mentioned it or talked about it or just something about the blip and the events of those movies.
yeah, sure. Other than just seeing, you know, Cap on the screen or, you know, Thor crying,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, it felt, again, to me, it felt in universe just
Yes.
because we, you know, with the sacred timeline, but it also felt kind of, it, it felt outside of the universe up until the point where they got to shawarma.
The Avengers
It,
discovered that.
They invented shawarma. Um, like you could tell they were definitely out running around doing their own thing, and then all of a sudden it comes full circle to where you know shawarma and the fight scenes with what was it Ultron and like that block. We knew that block.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it was like, okay, now it's together. But yeah, it's it would be fun to see exactly where that moment falls. Like, is it post snap, pre snap? You know,
Right.
Because that could explain, well, okay, why Wolverine's not there? Maybe he got snapped out. Who knows? But
Right.
that's
So cameo wise, what was besides Gambit? What was the one cameo that you're just like holy like you're sitting in the theater like holy shit like you kind of like they like it you did not expect. Besides, obviously, I feel like Gambit was the one that everyone was like, "Holy shit!" What was the one cameo that you're just like, those crazy sons of bitches did it?
well. Let me say that the cameos, with the exception of the one, got ruined for me while I was in San Diego. I'm not mad about it. I heard people
Oh,
talking about it in line. They're like, "Oh yeah, Elektra, Blade, oh Gambit." Nobody said who was playing Gambit, but I was like, okay. And then they were like, "Oh Johnny Storm, Chris Evans." It was good to see him come down. Chris, Johnny Storm. And I don't know if you noticed, blue suit, red gloves, white strap tape.
yeah,
Um, and as much as I enjoyed seeing Deadpool saying he's going to say the thing, he's going to say the thing, I was part of me would have rather have seen him say, "Look at his ass, look at him, look at his ass. That is America's ass." You
yes,
know what I mean? Like I kind of wish he would have said that. Um, and then seeing Pyro take him out just without even thinking about it. Um, I enjoyed Sabretooth. Wish that fight was longer, which I think we all did. But I enjoyed the fact that without saying it, they referenced Origins when he says, "Do you even know how to kill me, Jimmy? I'm going to cut
yeah,
your goddamn head off." He cuts his goddamn head off.
yeah,
Um, Jennifer Garner, I was like, she still friggin' has it.
yes.
Still gorgeous as ever in that red suit. French kiss, perfect.
I like I love the little Daredevil by Ben Affleck. Oh, that's
He's
fine.
like, sorry about that. It's okay.
Yeah. Oh, that was just like that was one of those if you know kind of deals.
Yeah, it might have flown over some people's heads, but we got it. And then
Yes.
when Blade, what's up? Go ahead.
Just agreeing with you.
And then when Blade walked out, again, knowing it was going to be him, it was just like, it's good to be back, you know.
I was not
And then,
expecting blood.
you know, and somebody watched the video. I forget who it was. It might have been Variant. That one black guy that was with Cassandra Nova.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "Is that an alternate universe of Blade that looks like he would be Blade?" Like every video I saw was like looking at that one bald big guy,
Mm-hmm.
and then they bring out friggin' Wesley Snipes. And I'm like, there is no other Blade. He even says it
No,
himself.
yet.
so,
Because
so
they are talking about doing a Blade reboot, but no, because we was in the theater. Me and a buddy of mine went and watched it, and excuse me, we went and watched it, and Carmen, not Carmen Electra, Electra comes out, then Blade comes out, and both of us are kind of like, holy crap, because like my buddy I went and watched it with, like he's not super in but he's not like he hasn't seen every single one of them. He hasn't, he doesn't sit there know, the lore, the canon, and some of the some of the other stuff that other people do. So like he's watched the Blade movie, so just seeing Blade come out, and he's even kind of like, holy shit, that's Blade, and like was not expecting that, and it was, and just knowing Blade, was it Blade Trinity when Ryan Reynolds was in that movie, and it's just like, oh, I don't like you. You never did. It's just those little hints like that towards the movie with the movies. It's just like, oh, that's one of those. For those who know, they know it,
yeah,
and that's about these. Marvel does very well about their movies to me over DC. Marvel, the average person can go watch them and know what's going on, but they throw little tidbits towards the viewers that if you know your comic books, if you know your other movies, you've watched the TV shows, if you've done everything, watched all the stuff, they reward you. They throw in
yeah,
little tidbits for those who know, but yet they also make it to where you don't have to read every single issue of this comic line or watch every single episode of this to understand what's going on. That is one thing that I really do appreciate about the Marvel movies over DC movies.
yeah. It's like they don't they don't hold your hand through everything, but they don't expect you to know everything either. But they will reward those of us that have been watching since the beginning. Blade, Sam Raimi Spider Man's, the X series. They will reward you with little things, little quips, little lines, and it's like I understood that reference, you know.
Yeah,
And
you didn't think we'd know.
they what's up?
Like it's one of those. They did that. They wouldn't think we noticed, but we did. We
Yeah.
all noticed. Like
What did you
the
think of Gambit? Oh, sorry.
uh,
Go ahead.
Gambit. So my only real exposure to Gambit, unfortunately, is X-Men as Wolverine Origins. And I know Channing Tatum was wanting to play Gambit for the longest time, and I knew the movie was in the works or talked about before Disney's acquisition of Fox. So seeing Channing Tatum come out as Gambit, that looked like it was pulled straight from the pages of a comic. First of all, then his little quips, when about the, you know, oh, about when they're asking, yeah, there's a knock at the door, boom, I'm here. It's like, oh, I think I was born here, and little comments like that, or the people that we could have saved, or people don't even know about us, those little comments about him not getting his movie, I really appreciated, and just the accent was so great, the French Cajun accent, the just his how he carried the character. Channing Tatum has the potential to be, the Hugh Jackman to Wolverine, the Robert Downey Jr. to Tony Stark, Iron Man, the Ryan Reynolds to Deadpool. The castings that are, you cannot think of somebody else as that character. Channing Tatum, if Disney will listen and see people's reactions to this, I think Channing Tatum has gold on his hands with Gambit. Reynolds, I've said this for a while, that that Ryan Reynolds, how he handles the comic book genre, of he does everything as comic book accurate as possible and does justice to characters that Ryan Reynolds should be like, not necessarily as Deadpool, but Ryan Reynolds should be involved in that project of Gambit to make sure that it is handled with as much care and love as his cameo in Deadpool Wolverine was.
Yeah, and I want to say that in Origins, I think Taylor Kitsch did a fantastic job, especially with what he was given. I think for what amount of screen time he did have a little bit of the aura about him of Gambit. But I had friends say like, Channing Tatum, I don't know. My name is Jeff guy, like, and then I was like, dude, I think he could do it. And then seeing him just he could have not said a word,
Mm-hmm.
but I was like, bro. And then he starts talking, and anybody that knows anybody from Louisiana or New Orleans area, he nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they, whether it was, they like to see homos naked from Joe Dirt to, like any, to swamp people. I'm like, he nailed it, and he had the goofiness, he had the humor, and then that little bit of seriousness when he said, you got to at least ask before drinking all my liquor.
Yeah.
Nailed it. The fight scene was beautiful.
Oh yes, like his yeah. It was, like I said, I'm not super familiar with the Gambit character, anyways. But after, like, watching that and watching some videos and doing a little my own research, it's Channing Tatum nailed it. Like, if I was him, I would be on who's ever got to be on trying to, like, hey, you seen the way these people reacted to just for me being in the movie for 10 minutes. I need my own movie. Like, he deserves his own movie after that.
And you know what? Like, even if they don't want to go the movie route, if they want to start giving, like, kind of like they did with She-Hulk and Moon Knight, standalone miniseries, of his life up to Deadpool and Wolverine, he would be a perfect candidate for that. Small
Right.
screen, very intimate. You see his life, him running around Louisiana, getting caught up with the guild, the Thieves Guild. You could have that kind of have the TV show be his origin story, and then next thing you know, okay, he's in the X-Men movie or
Or
jumping around here.
or what I'm maybe my thought on that is maybe do a post Deadpool Wolverine show where, because obviously we've seen where at least one of the characters from the Void is now looks like they're in the main that timeline or that continuity. So if the TVA pull those people out of the Void, maybe he could have his show post Void to where he gets brought into back to the world.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you how you felt about Laura Kinney, but I was like, I know they were
Oh
talking about making her the next Wolverine,
yes.
at some point. Which I'm like, is she officially in the MCU now? So
Oh, I
yeah,
honestly, God, that made me feel old after watching Logan in theaters, and she was just a little girl.
yeah,
And seeing her in this movie, she's grown up, and it's like, first off, that made me feel old. It's like, holy crap, it really has been. I'm still on the Logan came out a couple years ago, and realizing like, oh crap, it's been what 2017 since that movie. It's been 7 years. It's like, oh wow, like she's grown up, and seeing her get a reprise of the role and put the same pair of sunglasses on that she did from the movie, it's like, okay. And
Yeah,
her
that
being
was one of those little wholesome things. Just pull them out,
yes,
just stick them on.
that's back to that. If you watch Logan, you like, hey, that's her sunglasses that she stole, and I saw one video. I think it's on either, I can't remember if I sent it to you on Instagram or TikTok, but it was one basically saying that she ended up in the void because she was not supposed to live.
Yeah.
That dying to save her life, which caused, the anchor being to, cause their universe to go, that she was not supposed to survive. So that's why she ended up in the void.
Which is a dark turn if that was what happened, you know. It's like,
That's truly, that's kind of dark.
yeah. And if you want to look dark, deeper into that, it would have meant that Logan's sacrifice was for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It meant something, but didn't mean anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Scheme of things, it meant nothing. And it's like, if that's the case, and like, so it's obviously we didn't see any of the, which obviously nothing's confirmed about that. That's just someone's either headcanon or kind of like thought, thinking. That makes me wonder then, like, what about the other children that Logan by proxy saved because of, through his sacrifice?
Yeah, and continue thinking about that. All of the mutants and characters that were with Cassandra Nova. How many of those kids turned into those?
I mean,
Who turned into the Blob? Who turned into uh, Psylocke? Who turned into?
Ode.
Who replaced the main characters as those characters because they weren't supposed to live?
Yeah.
Obviously Pyro was 1-for-1 Pyro. Johnny Storm was a 1-for-1. But, from the Blob to the Russian to whoever, how many of those grew up from kids from Logan?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's just kind of headcanon right now, but
Yeah. It's when you think about some of that, it's like, oh, kind of gives some of that a darker twist than what you were originally thinking. But yeah, because obviously, seeing the X2, the X-Men original characters, like you said, Pyro, Juggernaut, the Sabretooth, then trying to think. I think there was I think there's a couple others from the original X-Men series that was in there. But
I
also,
I think the only two that recurred their came back for their character was Pyro and Sabretooth. I think
right?
Toad was somebody different. Vinnie Jones, he said they were in talks for him to come back as Juggernaut. Um, uh, Lady Deathstrike, she was somebody different. Psylocke was somebody different.
Okay.
But
They didn't show much of Lady Deathstrike for me to really like. Oh, okay, oh crap, that's the same one from, was it Origins? But yeah, it's still cool. It's
no,
still
X2.
it's character though. Yeah.
I mean, it was
It was
cool to
still
see
nice
him,
getting to see these characters. One
What did
thing
you?
I really appreciated about. Oh, go ahead.
No, go. Continue your thought.
One thing that I really appreciate about this movie over the other two Deadpool movies was this one actually showcased a lot more of Deadpool's, fighting ability, fighting styles. With obviously the opening sequence, then the first fight with Logan, then the minivan fight. This I really appreciated that this showcased a lot more of Deadpool's abilities over, just being, getting shot and healed or stabbed and healed or torn apart and healed. I really do appreciate that this showcased that. And along with that, it also really showcased Wolverine's, strength, how strong he is, and just I really liked it, when that, they first got sent to the void and they fought, and he's down on all fours charging at Deadpool, the more animalistic style of Wolverine. Like I really thought this movie did both of those very, very well in that aspect.
Yeah, the minivan scene was, it was fun to watch. But it reminded me when they're all in the minivan and they crash through the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Did you catch the reference?
No.
When it was on fire?
Oh yes.
I was like,
Yeah.
first time I kind of know, I was like, oh, it's on fire. Then the second time when I saw the wheels and the flames coming out the side, it's like they went full Ghost Rider with that.
That would have been another cool cameo if they could have secured Ghost Rider in there.
Nicolas Cage.
Yes. Or one of the Punishers.
Yeah. And when they referenced Punisher, oh yeah, that's Punisher's 84.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as cool as it would have been to see Tom Zane up in there, you know what I mean? Just kind of like handing them stuff. Here, take this with you. Take this. You might need this. You might need that. He's in the back of his van, just handing him stuff.
That.
But speaking of that void fight, one thing that I it would have added time into the movie, which I would have been more than happy to sit through a 3 hour long Deadpool movie as opposed to just a two. The original cast that we got up to that point: Colossus, Teenage Warhead, Kamiko.
Mm.
I wish they went along the ride with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Been part of the fight. Them to give us one fastball special. You know what I mean? Wolverine just looks up to him and is like, "All right, boy, throw me." You know, you know, not to take away from the cameos because that's probably what their main focus wanted to be on, but to see another Colossus Juggernaut fight. You know, um, Teenage Warhead just blow open the door. You know what I mean? Instead of them ramming it with the minivan. Little things like that would have been, I think, would have added to the thank you for carrying along with us. You know what I mean? And the fact that we never saw Vanessa once, not once as copycat, it's probably this would have been the time to do it. You know what I mean?
Would have been, yes. I think potentially the closest we got to that was whenever Cassandra was in Deadpool's head and she started going saying like, "Oh, you're not shit, Wade. You'll never be anything. You don't matter." Like, I think that was potentially the closest to copycat we would get whenever it showed that kind of that flashback of with Deadpool, like, "Oh, if you don't want me, just say so." One of that kind of little sequence. I think that's potentially the closest to copycat we'll get.
Speaking of Cassandra, what did you think about her? What did you think about her inclusion?
Honestly, I kind of liked it. Like, it was obviously it was supposed to be a kind of a Charles-esque, you know, female Charles, kind of like, how the female Loki variant from the Loki series. That's kind of how I kind of took it as myself. I didn't mind it. I thought it was interesting. I mean, it was an interesting, inclusion. It wasn't an established character, so there's not really any kind of emotional ties to it. I liked it. I mean, I wasn't really, upset with her performance. I really didn't mind the character.
Yeah, I enjoyed the fact that like, okay, they brought her in, they referenced her. This was the second Xavier sibling they referenced in the Deadpool movies. You know, um, and at first when she was coming out, you know who I was expecting?
Who was that?
Tilda Swinton. Like
Hmm.
if they would have cast her also as like that would have been, I would have been like, ooh, you know what I mean? Kind of like she was, you know, you could still say she was Charles' sister, but when she died, she went there. You know what I mean? You could
Right.
still kind of play that, kind of tie them into the MCU a little bit. Would have been a deviation from both characters, but you know, and it would have made more sense with her having sling ring. Which, if you looked closely, did you see the stones?
I did not. Okay, on the oh, what would they call the Marvel
The,
Spark?
yeah, the sparkle ring. It
Yes. I
had the
know.
reality stone and the time stone on it.
Okay, I noticed that, but I didn't really pay too much attention because it's never really shown in or maybe I just didn't notice it in the other movies. They never really show like a close up of that in like any of the Doctor Strange movies or the Avenger
Oh,
movies. I never really noticed it, but I did notice that in this movie. Like there's the stones there, but I didn't really pay too much attention to that.
yeah, I don't think in the main MCU any of them had the stones on the ring. But at first, the first time I saw it, I noticed it, and then again, I was watching. I don't know if it was a TikTok or something on YouTube. Somebody was like, "Yeah, looked like the time stone and the uh, reality stone." And then it made me want to look. I looked closer the second time. I was like, "Okay, I could see that. That it at least looks like it's referencing that." You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Um, but speaking of referencing things, what little Easter eggs did you pick up on? Or what was your favorite one? Favorite
Uh,
ones?
um. Honestly, some of the Easter eggs that the ones that I really liked the most, honestly, was the Channing Tatum's, the gambit of his little anytime the other two said something about saving people or not knowing where they're at, just his little or people we wanted to save or people didn't know about us or those kind of little Easter eggs I thoroughly enjoyed. And some of the other Easter eggs was the whenever they're in the void, that first fight scene, there's one scene it shows Thor's classic helmet. Then it across from that it showed Cap's classic shield, like the OG, not the
Yeah.
vibranium, but the actual, like his shield he had like in the movie at the very beginning. That then there was obviously the helicarrier in the back. There's a like that and the Fantastic Four car.
Yeah, and then the hot rod they were driving was a mixture of was it Zemo's car and Red Skull's car.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Giant Ant Man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, look, Paul Rudd finally aged. Cassandra's chair was the
Yeah.
bottom half of Thanos' throne. Blob's shirt, the two gloves,
Yeah.
the red was on in X-Men Origins. That symbol was on a poster on the back wall.
Really?
He was wearing the same, wasn't the same shirt, but same symbol on a gray shirt, and that symbol was on the wall. And then, like, Deadpool and Wesley Snipes' little quips, and then of course the shawarma.
Yeah.
And what else did I notice? Something friggin' else too. Holy shit. There was something else I can probably blank it out right now. That I was like, holy shit, they said the thing. They said the thing.
God,
No.
there was some more, but that's the only thing about that. Like, especially these movies, they're ones you got to watch. 2, 3, 4 times to fully. Where you can sit there at home, sit there, pause it, or on your phone or on the TV, pause it, like, oh shit, that's whatever. That's one of those things about the Deadpool movies. You kind of got to like. Oh, one of them I really liked was TVA. The main lady was one of the hunters in the Loki series.
Yeah, the black lady.
Yes, her. That was that, and there was someone else that was from one of the other series that I kind of like. Oh shit, that's them. Like, this is one of those movies I'm gonna have to watch a couple more times to fully, where I can sit there and pause it and not have to worry about being in a theater. I can sit there and actually like, holy shit, kind of freak out a little bit more than I did in the movie theater watching it.
The one I just thought about it. When he's in Happy's office and they're going around looking, the toy Iron Man mask sitting in front of Tony and Peter Parker's picture.
Yes.
Somebody said that kind of confirmed that the little kid was Peter Parker.
Well, I thought that was always confirmed, but yeah, this definitely it. I noticed that too because I'm sitting there watching. The eyes looked awfully big for a normal Iron Man mask. Then to looking
Yeah.
at it, it's like a toy. It's like, oh shit, that's Peter's mask. Oh, then seeing the shield from Iron Man 2 that he used to prop up the when he made the new
the chest piece.
yeah, where he used that shield to prop up the tube. Seeing that, that kind of either disassembled or like whatever of that is of Cap's shield. Seeing that up there too is pretty nice.
And you speaking of Happy Hogan, you asked, like, is this the main Marvel universe? just Happy Hogan being there
Mm-hmm.
means it's in main continuity now, and then
Yeah,
coming full circle to them getting the shawarma. I think that's their way of bookending. Like, yeah, this is ours now, and we brought everybody along with us.
it's it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it's taken this long because, referencing another movie, the X-Men and the X-Men and Fantastic Four played a really big part in Civil War, and fortunate it's taken this long to get the X-Men into the MCU. That it'd be almost nice to see them redo Civil War, but with not having RDJ, well, back as Doctor Doom now, which technically he could still be Iron Man because would be the superior Iron Man now. Technically, RDJ could still come back as Iron Man, but because Doctor Doom, there was a time where Doctor Doom was Iron Man, but it'd be nice to see them include. It'd been nice to see some of these X-Men characters in some of the older movies where they played a bigger role besides a handful of Avengers that Marvel actually had at that time.
Yeah, and I don't know how short of showing scenes of them in the background. I don't know how they would. They would have to completely remake that movie. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Because how many? I want to say majority of the X-Men sided with Cap
yeah,
because they've seen this before. You know, um, so I could definitely see them playing their role in the background. If they did a live action kind of X-Men '97, of what if scenarios, almost
yeah.
like what were they doing then, and then you could see, the Black Ops X Force team during Civil War. Um, you know, what was Wolverine doing? You know, you could take the first Cap movie and the first Origins movie when they're both in World War II. The scene where Logan is landing on D-Day with Sabretooth, you could show from an opposite angle of Cap getting off a ship next to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or them meeting somewhere in the middle. You know what I mean? You could bring scenes together, I think, to kind of tie it all together. But it would be hard to, unless they shoot scenes and do like a Snyder's type of cut, you know.
Or what is it? Outside of Marvel, but have you heard of the It's the Revenge of the Sith supercut, to where they include like parts and episodes of like the Clone Wars series and Revenge of the Sith. They splice scenes of um the animated series, like parts where they're on Mandalore, and like because there's, after watching, especially the last couple seasons of that, where what's about to happen, because like where Ahsoka's talking to the Jedi Council, and it's right as like Anakin and Obi-Wan comes in, or they just get done talking to Anakin and Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka's showing up. Like there's scenes, like there's like, it's like a 4.5 hour movie to where they splice different parts of the animated series in with Revenge of the Sith. And like if they could do something, potentially like that, or just do some kind of, not necessarily reshoot, but I can't remember what, there's like I think there's another massive like Marvel comic, like every single hero involved, where they could do now. That would be actually pretty cool if they could do something like that now, since the X-Men are for the most part in the MCU now, and Hugh Jackman's going to be doing this till he's 90.
Yeah, and like you could make, and now that they have the entire all of Fox's catalog, they could, especially let's say after Secret Wars, you could have uh, Nick Fury sitting down, he's talking to somebody. You don't necessarily see who it is, but he could reference it like, we can't have another situation like Liberty Island. You know what I mean? Or he was like, we watched you face the Hulk. You know what I mean? You're the only person that was able to slow him down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or they could start bringing in little snippets like that of, you know, like, or when they're going through files of like, I can't believe they were funding this, and they pull out a file of the Weapon X program,
Yeah,
or Department H, like little things that they're slowly bringing all that was going on at the same time. You know what I mean?
just kind of
And
retcon into the main continuity.
yeah, and they could sat there and sit down, and whether it was Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Evans, Captain America, you know, Sam Wilson could be there, and he's looking at files with Fury. He's like, you see, Weapon X program, Department H, um, a picture of the Xavier Institute, and he's like, these guys were here all along. What? They're like, we tried, but they said no.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like saying, bringing like, hey, they've been around since Cap was frozen in ice. One of the guys we saved turned out to be a terrorist. You know what I mean? Referencing Magneto.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Or the other way that maybe they could kind of play it off is like something like, kind of like you said, they're going through these files and it's like, wait a minute, wait, we've had this guy the whole time while you guys were like referencing, say, Logan. Like, wait, we've had this guy the whole time, but yet, Cap was a capsicle. And the only thing I think of is Fury, like, well, he did some freelance, like they did some freelance work for us, or, some stuff that we couldn't necessarily be, attached to that, these guys did that kind of, some side kind of like not mercenary, but kind of like contract work where, we can't be seen doing this, but, whatever you do on your own is on you. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
yeah,
Kind.
and they could when they're going through files, they could say file on Alpha Flight, file on X Force, file on Maverick. They have files on everybody. And it's like and that could lead into it, Civil War II almost. Of why weren't you
Yeah.
telling us all this? Fury, you're hiding shit from us again. You know what I mean? And yeah,
There's possibilities. There's directions they could go with it. But
and,
so,
and
what did
they already have. Oh,
no? Go ahead. Yours. What your no? Because this is going to be complete different tangent. Go ahead with yours.
they already have kind of a hook for Magneto. Wanda.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
Wanda and Quicksilver.
Yeah.
are his kids. They could finally reference their mutant heritage.
They they can actually call them mutants instead of enhanced individuals.
And as much as I love Ian McClellan's Magneto, he was so poetic. It could be their way of having Michael Fassbender
Mm-hmm.
continue as Magneto for, I mean, guy's only what, 50 maybe?
Something
He
like
could still
that.
do he could still do it for at least another 20 years. Um and they already brought in Owner into WandaVision,
Yeah.
continue that, and that could be one way of bringing them in, along with all the files and that Shield has or Fury had, and they could reveal all that during like Secret Wars and hell even what was it, Doomsday? No, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, sorry, I just one of those little switches.
Oh
Hamster
yeah.
started.
So, what did you think about The Mask?
It was beautiful to finally see it. It was a little. I wouldn't say this might sound bad as me knocking it or dissing it. It looked a little weird. You know what I mean? Just to see like a live action version of it, because I couldn't fathom for the last 20 some years what it would look like.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, it's still beautiful. You know what I mean? It's still friggin'
Yes.
amazing to say. So I have zero complaints. Um, the only kind of half-ass complaint, and it's more of a nitpick than anything, when they jumped out of the back of the bus, you can still see the CGI, and I'm like,
Yeah.
if that's the biggest complaint, then you know whatever. But
I was
again,
waiting for it to. I was waiting for it through the whole movie. I'm sitting there like, okay, hey, come on, come on. When I saw the yellow suit, it's like, okay, this is, it's not. When he finally reaches back and puts on that dead mask, God,
and it's like as soon as he reached back there, it's like, oh, he's gonna do the thing. He's gonna do the thing.
God, my kid me was freaking ecstatic, and I
You broke up there a little bit, but
I teared up, but it's just like it, it's like, what? I'm okay with this. It's like seeing it made me happy.
yeah, it was one of the many boners I had during that movie. And there was this movie and
The
To Ryan Reynolds' defense.
uh,
It was one.
I
Damn, you keep freezing up on me, Phillip.
I did My bad.
You're good.
Like I had no complaints with the kid. Me happy seeing it on.
Zero complaints. It was a beautiful thing to see. Yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you give it?
So, what'd you think about the Deadpool core? Only through everybody. Deadpool variant, the Cowboy Deadpool, voiced by Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, yeah. Blake Lively being Lady Deadpool, his kid being Baby Pool and Kid Pool.
The only Deadpool that I didn't somewhat recognize was the one that looked like a robot face with like the laser swords. That's like kind of the only Deadpool. I was just kind of like, what's that
Deadpool,
one?
Deadpool 2099.
Oh,
2099 universe.
okay. But other than that, like Samurai Deadpool, like Welsh Pool, then obviously you can't forget about Peter Pool.
Every Deadpool had his Peter.
Enjoy my Peter. that sequence that then oh god not okay. Soon as Nice Pool said over my dead body about the Gold Desert Eagles, his fate was sealed.
Yeah, he asked for it at that point.
I knew it was going to happen. I didn't know when, didn't know how, but as soon as he said that, I'm like, oh, you're going to die. You're dead. Your death warrant is done. It just hasn't happened yet.
And the one Deadpool that doesn't regenerate.
Yes, the one. The only thing out of that I would have liked to see, I would have loved to seen it just as a nod and just to see both of them kind of go ape shit on him, would have been the X-Men Origins Deadpool in that variant. In the Deadpool core, if they would have had him in there and both of they and what and like Deadpool and Wolverine just kind of look at each other and look at that one, be like, oh, I'm gonna get you.
He's like,
And just see Wade
didn't I
just
clean you up
go
last night?
ham on that.
He's like, I was cleaning up the goddamn timeline.
If they would have done that, that just if that one would have been one of the variants, it would have been funny just to see that. That would have been great.
And then for them, Wolverine and Deadpool to look at each other like back to back, and they just start fighting them. Like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
But on a scale of 1 to 10, wrap this up.
Ooh.
On a scale of 0 Deadpools to 10 Deadpools, where's the land?
Honestly, I would have to say, personal opinion, I would say an 8.5 to 9, to be my personal opinion. It's definitely the best movie I've seen this year. It's like I said, it's like I said at the beginning, it's the best Deadpool. It's the best Deadpool movie. I mean, they had minor nitpicks, but I would give it a solid 8.5 to 9. It might be able to move up a little bit more on future watchings. Watching it at home, being able to sit there and go through kind of be able to pause it or rewind it to kind of pick up some stuff I may have not noticed. The initial viewings, but I would personally give it a solid 8.5, 9 right now.
Same. I was definitely leaning in the 9 to 9.5. Um, you know, with all the cameos and the completion of the story, you know, Deadpool finally finished the story, and and it was, again, like you said, upon future watchings at home or wherever, uh, will definitely solidify, okay, exactly where how I feel. Um, and I kind of pretty much put all the Deadpools in that same vein of a 9 to 9.5. And
Right.
like, and it's hard to say which one's my favorite, but this definitely is, you know, right up there with the first two.
Yeah.
Might be it may be the best thing Marvel's put out this year so far, and definitely one of the top 3 to 5 to 3 things that they put up since Endgame.
Yeah.
You know, so
Me
um,
personally, Wolverine's always been one of my favorite characters, anyways. So getting this to me to see Wolverine again, you're not going to hear a complaint from me.
and that when they were sitting there eating, and even before they went into the credit scenes, um, when he asked Logan, "Will I see you around?" He said, "Probably not." That's their kind of way of saying he's done. You know what I mean? Like this
Yeah,
was kind of the last hurrah.
but I feel like Hugh Jackman is at least smart enough this go around to not make it official, because I saw some, I think it was on TikTok, where he's talking to Jimmy Fallon, and he's like, "Yeah, I announced, at Logan, I'm done. I'm no longer paying Wolverine. I'm done with Wolverine. Then I'll go and watch Deadpool, and shit." And he realizes that, well, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have said that. And I feel like this is kind of the way of saying that he's not necessarily done, but it's it's a definite maybe. You may
Yeah,
see
like
him, may not carry an entire movie like this. You might see him as a cameo, or a has a small role, but may not carry an entire movie again.
like maybe he'll have he'll be the X-Men's Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Where he'll show up kind of like how he was in like X-Men Evolution, where he'll just show up, drop a little bit of sage advice, and then leave.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Kind of like how Iron Man was it in Spider Man?
yeah, little mentorship, and then he goes on his way.
Yeah, I can see that as a maybe not carrying a full length movie like he did with this, but definitely I could see him in a cameo, a supporting role, or like not like a major, like say, carry a movie role, but I can see him being back playing smaller roles as Wolverine.
Agreed.
And
Like it left it vague enough that you know you might see him come up. Oh, maybe even in a flashback. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But but it definitely makes the whole MCU going forward seem a little less. What are they doing to? Ooh, what are they going to do now? You know.
and
So
to me it makes it seem a little more lived in, I guess. Like it's a little more, not just the same six characters that it's everybody. You got the entire population. Then you got, the OG Avenger cast. It makes it seem a little. It seems the world a little. It grew the world a little bit. It makes it seem a little more lived in. That there's more people besides just the Avengers out there.
Yeah, yeah. It opened up the world a lot, and gives gives them an opportunity to uh, tell other stories of what was going on, in Latveria when that was going down. Who was in Europe, who was going on, who was doing what during Endgame, who got snapped during Endgame. It definitely opened up a whole new level of stories that they could do, which is
Yeah.
all we ever wanted.
Oh yeah. And it also opens up interactions to characters that did a lot together in comics. Like there was a few comic runs where you had Logan, Deadpool, and Cap all doing stuff together, and some of those, some of that interaction. Like I would love to see an interaction between Cap and Deadpool. I'm still waiting for a Tom Holland Spider-Man with Deadpool, though.
And it's just popped into my head is one thing that we didn't get to see when Chadwick Boseman was alive. Him and Storm.
Hmm. Well, there's always Robert Downey Jr. for that.
You're gonna be a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude playing a dude.
Yep.
Kind of fun.
Like, yeah, there's. I'm just excited to where this is opened up to where it could go now.
Agreed. Agreed.
So
Definitely.
the only other thing I really got was what I see like. I seen your TikTok you posted yesterday though, one about seeing those movies as as a kid. It was obviously this was kind of like and seeing the end credits, this was kind of like they're finishing the story. They're giving these characters their flowers they never got because either Fox doing what Fox did, and at the time those were the best things we had for comic book movies, and some of the undeserved hate they got. It was nice seeing the Foxmen get their flowers.
Agreed. Because like we said before, they had their issues. Started out strong and then they would drop off. But at the same time, for me, like I said, growing up, I must have seen the first X-Men, the second X-Men 15 times in theaters alone. So it was the same thing with like the Spider-Man franchise, Blade, like that was our MCU
Yeah.
before the MCU. And when Disney picked up Marvel and they started pumping out those Avengers movies, all we were clamoring for was like, we still can't get the Fantastic Four, or the X-Men, and now we have them, and it's like, and even Sony and Marvel working together. It's like things feel right now, and this made it feel right.
Yes. And that's one thing I think the original Deadpool did. It proved and it did right. I think the biggest thing the original X-Men movies suffered from was being PG-13. And I think Deadpool showed you can make a rated R comic book movie and people will it will and it will be successful. And I think that's where I'm not saying the next, Captain America or the next Iron Man needs to be rated R, but I think getting rated R comic book movies, it's when needed, that's the right direction to go, and I think that's where Deadpool proved that it can work.
Yeah, and it's like with Deadpool, the only way to do a right Deadpool was rated R.
Yes.
Logan being rated R solidified that. Now, of course, like you said, not every MCU movie has to be rated R now. Um, but like a movie like Blade could get that R rate, has the freedom to get that R rate.
Yeah.
Um, a Moon Knight could get rated R. You know, will a Defenders movie be rated R? Probably not. Ghost Rider could get away with being a rated R if you
Yeah.
really want to dive hard into it. You
Punisher.
know, yeah, Punisher could be a hard, good rated R movie. Um, Cap, Thor doesn't need it,
No.
but you know, character dependent, you can get away with it.
Yeah.
And it
I think that's fine. I think with that, it's finally showing that people will watch it, and yes, and that's the other thing. Like, it kind of goes into other genres. I think this is also showing that not just because it's a comic book movie doesn't necessarily mean you have to make it for kids. Like, these aren't necessarily kid movies or kid friendly movies, and it's okay to yes, I get toy sales, merchandise, throw an Avengers logo on a lunchbox and sell it. I get that. But not every single, comic book or superhero has to be catered towards children. And there are grown adults out there, people like us that will go and watch these movies who doesn't necessarily need our hands held, and having everything explained to us.
agreed. And with that thought, I hate to cut this off, man.
Oh,
But we
you're
could do
good.
a part two. We could do a part two of next time. But I have to pick up Katie at 5:30,
Oh no,
and
no, you're.
and so
I know I
uh,
got to late. So
so I appreciate you, bro. Thank you for
oh,
coming,
no problem.
and
No problem at
I'll
all.
have this up. I'll have this up by tonight. So
Cool, cool.
peace
Well,
out.
just reach out time you got something you want to talk about.
What do you want to talk about? All right, thanks again, bud, and I'll talk to you soon.
Later, bro.
Adios.